I spent over a month planning the perfect shot. It's really hard to describe the excitement that we felt as we flew across the Pacific Ocean on our way to Sydney, Australia. I knew once and for all this was going to be my opportunity to take some shots that I never thought I would be able to. Landing in Sydney, we had time that day to do some walking around the circular quays where a lot of the boats dock, where all the ferries come in and out of Sydney. And adjacent to the circular quay is the iconic Sydney Opera House. I had always wanted to shoot the Opera House, and I had always thought that the shot I wanted was one where the Opera House was in the foreground, and the Harbour Bridge was behind it, and I knew this was my chance to do that. Before I even got to Australia, I sat down and started planning just what was it going to take to get this shot. Well, first off, I opened up Google Maps, looked at the aerial views, I looked at the street views, and I started figuring out just where it was that I was going to take my shot from. And that is one of the tools that I think is awesome for photographers these days because you can get a sense of what's it going to look like? What are you going to see when you're looking there? Using Google Maps, I found a spot that would allow me to look past the Sydney Opera House over and have the Harbor Bridge behind it. When we were walking around that day, it turned out the location that I had picked in Google Maps was the Botanical Gardens. And I didn't realize that they closed in the evening and didn't open until 8 o'clock in the morning. With sunrise around 6:15 in the morning, that wasn't going to work. I scrambled and went to my second location that I had scoped out. It was on the other side of the Opera House. And I was standing there looking where I could look across the harbor and see the Opera House. Now, I wasn't going to get the bridge, but that was okay because the next morning, our last morning in Sydney, I knew the sun was going to rise up over my shoulder and it would light up the Opera House and I would have a beautiful shot. The second thing I did is I opened up a time date app so that I could ascertain just what time sunrise was going to happen in Sydney. Allows me to pick different days and it tells me when the sun is coming up, when the sun is setting, is the moon coming out. The third tool that I used was PhotoPills. But with PhotoPills, it allowed me to actually see where the sun rose and set. I could see the exact time and place it right there where I was standing so I knew just how things were going to look when I took the shot. Didn't turn out that way. So as you can see, with PhotoPills, you can learn a lot about just what's going to happen. And you'll notice that the location that I used for my PhotoPills was the Botanical Gardens. Because you see, when I got there and I realized I couldn't get there, I just didn't reprocess that information from PhotoPills. The next morning, I headed out 5:30 in the morning to go to my alternate location to shoot a picture of the Opera House. At this point, I noticed that it looked kind of milky out there. There was no definition. And of course, the sun wasn't up yet. But the more I looked, the more I realized that it was going to be a cloudy day. I went to my secondary location, set up the tripod. I got my shot angled over towards the Opera House. I took some early photos just to kind of get things squared away. And then I waited for the sun to come up. At this point, I had done the background investigation. I knew where I wanted to be. I had a backup spot, thankfully. And I was ready for Mr. Sunshine to come boiling down and light up the Opera House. That didn't happen because it was so cloudy. In fact, it was an overcast day, and there was almost a fog in a lot of the buildings off on the horizon. As the light got brighter and brighter, it just got flatter and flatter, and it looked like I was just looking at a white light. And so, no matter picture after picture that I took, nothing really looked great. At this point, I was quite disappointed. I mean, after all, I had flown to Sydney. The least Sydney could do was give me good sunshine and photographic environment. Sometimes it doesn't happen that way. The irony of my backup spot, it is that it was the wrong spot. Let me show you. As you can see on the PhotoPills, moving my spot over to where I was standing meant that the sun was going to come up on the other side of the opera house. In other words, had it been a sunny day, the sun would have been shining straight into my lens, and I would have had nothing but a dark background of the opera house in front of me in its shadow. And it would have been just as disappointing. One of the things that I made the mistake in doing was that I hadn't reset my perspective when I went to my alternate location. I had it from a Google Maps perspective, but I didn't have it from a, is this going to be a good time to take the shot? As it turns out, if I had come back that evening, it would have been a great place to take the shot because the clouds did dissipate and there was sun shining on the opera house. Unfortunately, we were in the Blue Mountains by that point in time and weren't able to get back for sunset. Thus is the life of a photographer. Sometimes it works out and sometimes it doesn't. What I did end up with is, remember when I first got set up, I took a few shots. And one of the shots that I took was one with the lights on in the opera house. And what you can see here is that this ended up being the shot that I ended up with. The lessons that we've learned is that yes, planning does help, but you need to be very rigorous in that planning. If you have a spot set up and you do the analysis on it, what I should have done was printed off the map and marked on there, this is where I want to be and the time of day that I wanted to be there. I was relying on my memory to have that information. When I had a backup spot located, I should have gone in and also had that printed off. So I knew that, oh, it's not a sunrise, it's a sunset photo. And in fact, had I done that, I might have been able to go the night before and get a sunset photo at the opera house. The second lesson learned is that practice. Go out and try your shot. I could have gone out during the day, set up, made sure I liked where it was, and maybe I would have noticed, well, gosh, the sun is behind me now. In the morning, it's going to be there, and I might have caught it sooner. I don't know that it would have changed anything because that's where I could take the photo from, but at least I would have been maybe a little more accurate. The third thing is that you have to remember that when you move, your orientation moves. And that was the thing that I didn't do. I didn't recalibrate my location information. And the last thing is that you can't beat yourself up. You need to make the best of it, right? You're there to take photos, you're there to take a shot. Some of it is the experience of being there. I know when I look at that photo, I'm going to have several memories. I hope this helps you. I'm Peter Kreger, and this is Field Study.